I'd like to call the finance meeting to order at
Is he ready?
5:24. Everybody okay? All right. I'm gonna, in attendance for the finance is Chairperson Alderman Rogers.
Alderman Randall L.
All right. First order on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing on the agenda is the bills list for November 8th bills list. Chair opens up for discussion for November 8th bill list. Co-chair, do you have any questions?
November 8th bills list?
Yes, sir.
Not on that list, no.
Not on that one. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down here to it right quick. I had an opportunity to review it several times. I didn't see anything that was out of the ordinary that we were paying for. I see the mayor has an expense, a couple of them for seminars. Third Ward alderman has a expense for $1,730. Everything else is pretty much the same thing that's always on there. Canon, I guess that's the insurance package for $9,000. Ozell Barnes, Metropolitan Industries. Okay, so the chair will make a recommendation to accept the bills list for November 8th.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we can move down to November 22nd bills list. Okay. Quill, no. Mr. Williams, I had Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Lewis, I had on last Monday's agenda, you were out of town, and Ms. Michelle, she was unavailable, so we just decided to cancel the meeting. But there was some information in regards to Baker Tilly, US LLP, and on the agenda was to see the agreement that Baker Tilly has between the city of Harvey, or is there any agreement? You have not been privileged to it. Neither has the city council been privileged to it. And I was under the impression that anytime we bring in a vending company to do auditing or contracting of any type, that it has to have city council approval. And you have not. Okay.
May I?
It exceeds $10,000.
Say it again?
It exceeds $10,000. So I would love to argue with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, I'm looking at the $10,513.75 for the month of November. That's not my question. My question was to see an agreement, a contract.
No, I just said I concur.
Yeah, he agrees with me.
Okay.
I think, according to Timothy Williams, they're supposed to be purely oversight, according to their agreement. And I guess the question is, undoubtedly, yes, that contract should have came before council. But secondly, if they're particularly just there for oversight, then why are they kind of becoming the gatekeeper of reviewing expenditure reports?
Well, I guess that was it. It's an oversight. It was a matter of internal control. Believe it or not, I got put through the ringer on some expenses that I had allowed the city to use
Wait, are you being funny?
Pardon me? No.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like, it was reoccurring stuff, and you'll see, even I think on this bill list, you'll see where there's a bill for me for 2,400. It's nothing but we have to pay, you know, all the software companies now, Adobe, Microsoft, they make you pay monthly fees.
Right. And you were using your personal credit card to
Yeah,
do
of
this?
course, as long as I get paid.
And just getting the reimbursement?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
all right.
Exactly, so that even came under question, so.
But see, are they
And I
able,
guess
and this is my thing, if they're now the gatekeeper on these expenditures that are, I don't know, for lack of better words, being audited, then why are they not communicating the issues?
I guess the issue was not specifically the expenses, but what was proper documentation for those expenditures. Bills, invoices as opposed to paid invoices and things like that. And I'll tell you all, it's not the first time it's come up.
No, and that's fine,
No,
except,
I'm not saying with them, it's not the first time it's come to scrutiny. I got beat up by when the expenses were much larger by the folks from the U.S. Attorney's Office about what documentation. That's when they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on landscaping and all those things. What was the documentation? What was the control that was in place at the time? Is one reason why I got extremely uncomfortable with it. Not for me, that I had done anything wrong, but just what it could cause additional scrutiny of the alderman. None of us need to finish scrutinizing.
Well, that explanation's good, but we're gonna discuss the alderman's expense account later on in the agenda. We don't wanna go and cover that right now. Okay. Chair recognizes the treasurer.
How is this being remedied? Are you still using your personal card or?
Yeah, well, they decided it was fully documented, and I don't charge anything else in this car, so everything that's going to that car was part of it.
So Harvey doesn't have a way to charge it themselves
Well, we
instead of
did.
it going through you?
We didn't have a credit card, we did get debit cards, but these credits all come today, and we have limits on that. And to be honest with you, based on my prior experience in other municipalities, it's very dangerous to get a bunch of folk out with credit cards, because what it allows them to do is circumvent the system in terms of having bills approved by the city council. If people can just charge a $10,000 bill and through the credit card, why would I ever come to you to get a bill approved? Now, there's certain times when the emergency expenditures, the street department, the administrative service department, the fire department, police department, they have use of a debit card, because sometimes they do have to get things on an emergency basis, but there's a cap on how much they can spend those, and again, it's not an open-ended situation, because again, the debit card is contingent, one, on the daily limit, but two, we only fund the debit card to $5,000. Is it 75 now?
Okay. One of the expenditures on between the two November bills list is Axel Glink and Diamond LLC. Mr. Lewis, between the 2 months, 3 months, they've billed the city for $103,993.46. And I do understand that a lot of that has to do with workmen's compensation claims and out-of-court settlements. My question to you is, for this amount of money to go to one law firm, wouldn't the city of Harvey benefit more by just, instead of paying the law firm this money, we could pay that $103,000 to the workman's comp? And I don't think that we have that many that's going to exceed this dollar amount.
Alderman, if you see those bills under the different categories, one is under, should be under Department 105.
Let me get to it. 61,
105 is what? Planning?
Legal.
105 is just general legal.
105, yeah, legal, I see it, yeah.
All right, so that's not workers' comp. That's for like general litigation when we're fighting with the people over liquor licenses, period. And those things that are more general in nature, like preparing ordinance and things like that. So the bill is broken out into 3 categories. One is for what we call corporate stuff, and that's again licensing. You'll see the labor attorneys charged to 105. Some of those general cases involving the pensions are charged to 105. Then you have 161. And 161 is miscellaneous appropriations. That's where we're really paying them to represent us, not only on the workers' compensation cases, but other liability cases. Anybody who has a slip and fall or anything where anybody's suing the city was a liability issue. What they do is they work with the insurance companies on those things. So we budget between those 2 categories. I would say we probably budget $1.8 million a year. So when you look at it, we know legal bills are going to be $150,000 a month. That's not only Ansel Glink, that's the labor attorneys. Montana Welch's represents the city because all the labor agreements were expired. So it's not as simple as it be easy. Workers' compensation bill is generally under $10,000 a month. And we did close quite a number of those files in the last 3 months.
Now, you mentioned under Department 105, for example, litigations on liquor licensing.
I say licenses and periods. You know, people get licenses and they want to fight us over. You know,
Why
we
is
find
that?
people operating without a business license, and we have to do cease and desist to make sure they're not operating. You know,
And is that frequently occurring?
oh, it happens more often than you probably want to believe.
Okay. All right,
So actually, the workers' compensation, I think we settled probably, God, in October, November, I think we paid out about $250,000 to basically settle some open liability cases, but the bulk of them were workers' compensation cases.
repeat that
Just to
number
get-
again?
Pardon me,
250,000.
about 250,000. Some of these cases went back, I'm talking about some of these cases went back to like 2010. Pardon me? No,
Now, that $250,000, is that included in this $103,000?
that's completely separate.
Wow.
And the only reason we pay those, in some instances, remember, in some instances, we didn't have insurance. In some cases, there are a lot of instances where they're deductible. So what happens too, like in some of the larger police liability cases that we're dealing with, you know, everybody wants to sue you. Civil rights violations, what happens is the insurance company, we may have a $500,000 deductible, but we meet our $500,000 deductible by what we pay the lawyers and legal fees.
Wow, these numbers are astronomical.
Litigation is expensive, but unfortunately, people like to sue cities because they view them as being deep pockets.
Well, Co-Chair, is there
But again,
anything on the November 22nd bills list that you see outstanding?
No.
Nothing other than the exorbitant legal bills. I guess everything else is pretty much cut and dry. The Chair recommends to pay the November 22nd bills list. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're down to the December 13th bills list. Ms. Lewis, just give me I want to review it one more time before we actually. There's under Department 132 Police, there's several outside services, cleaning specialists, 285. Why are there so many for 285 instead of combining them all?
Because they bill us each time. That's for body removals.
Body removals?
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that at the last.
Yeah,
the last
and I'll be honest with you, if you look at the dates of some of those bills, I guess I thought I was paying the bills pretty current, but they sent us those bills that basically been sent to the police department and hadn't properly been remitted to us. But that's what it is. That's not all murders. That's just sometimes people are deceased.
Right.
The police go in to do a well-being check, and obviously we have to have these people transport the bodies to the morgue.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, me say City of Chicago used to have a police officer do that. No, not no more. Because people just realize all the potential liability now.
Yeah. That's understandable.
Oh no, with COVID, and even before COVID, with AIDS and everything else,
Yeah. Administrative services, special events, 10,000 and 5,000. What was that for?
Who is that vendor?
Walter, I see what is this? Serviscape LLC, and
What department is that?
102. And Walter Legesti,
How much is Walter Lucas?
$5,254.20.
Why am I drawing a blank on that? I just looked at that bill. The $10,000 is a 3-year contract for Christmas decorations.
It's a 3-year contract for Christmas decorations?
Yeah.
Where they put them at?
All out here. They up and down Broadway. I mean, up and down 154, aren't they?
They got it up 154?
You seen them?
I ain't seen them.
Me either. I saw them outside in front.
In the
Yeah,
front?
They up and down 154.
When they gonna put them up?
They up now. I thought they down 100.
They out front, ain't nothing down 154.
Nothing.
Yeah, what happened was that became a liability issue for us. So it ends up being about $3,000 a year. Because what happened was when people get up in the lift in the truck and taking them up and down.
But Mr. Williams, we're still doing it. We're paying for it. There's no decorations up.
Well, maybe I'm wrong on the exact locations of those, but it was more than other.
These ain't no $10,000 worth
Are they up?
of decorations
No,
here.
3,000. It's a 3-year contract.
3,000.
It's a 3-year contract, so it's about 3,500.
There's nothing on 154th Street.
Oh, it's decorations beyond here. I'll pull the bill and clarify that before your next meeting, exactly where they at.
It definitely ain't what's in front of City Hall.
Oh, no.
That's the
It's
stuff from
City Hall,
Menards.
wouldn't be. See,
That's the same stuff they sell at Menards
yeah.
and Home Depot
And who puts it up is the
and
issue.
Family Dollar.
I get it. I didn't see it because I haven't been here at night. I'll clarify that for you. And Walter,
Either we clarify it now, I'm not gonna pay him.
you can put them on hold.
Okay.
That and other one. But I say I'll let you know. I'll pull the bill before the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, before the general meeting.
Which is the one
And you
is
said
that,
Walter.
Servicescape?
And it's round the tip of my tongue.
Servicescape, that's the one we hold.
That's the Servicescape is, now which one is that? Servicescape.
That's why I said I gotta look and see.
That's
Both
the
of
outside
them.
decoration.
Both of them, he's not sure what the other one is.
I'm
He's
drawing
gonna
a
look and
blank.
see.
I know you all, but
Walter Legaski,
That's
Right.
the Christmas decoration.
No.
No.
Which one's 10,000?
Servicescape is the
10,000.
10,000,
10,000 is
10,017.
That's Christmas.
That's Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one's round the tip of my tongue. It's just completely going past me.
Okay, well, we'll hold both of those until you get some
Okay.
clarity. Okay.
I'll pull them. I'm just drawing a
Okay.
blank right now.
Okay.
Let me make a note of that.
That was it for me on December bills list. All the rest of these are our common expenditures.
I have a question.
Co-chair recognizes the treasurer.
Thank you. There's a payment to yourself and administrative services. I'm used to seeing you in finance, but are these
Is that the
reimbursements?
2,200?
This one, yeah.
Yeah, that's for the,
That's what you were explaining earlier.
I'm sorry, the Walter Legacy, I'm complete, that's $5,000. That's Thanksgiving turkeys. The Thanksgiving turkeys, that's actually, what's the store? Waltz, yeah, Waltz. That's Walt, the guy who owns Waltz.
That's interesting.
Okay.
And the auction gave us money for
Right, we get some reimbursement, so other people may contribute. For the whenever you see the special events, like even the Christmas toys, you may see something down there for Corinne Davis. What happened was he gets contributions for those toys. So you'll see there's offsetting revenue for those special events.
Okay, so.
Like the bike ride, what else did we do?
So the $5,000 is turkeys,
Yes.
and you're working on, or you're gonna work on,
I'll find exactly where the street lights are at. The other is definitely street lights.
okay,
I'm sorry, Christmas decorations.
yeah, I know what you meant.
Well, the chair is going to make a recommendation to accept the December bills list, except for Department 102, line item 01-0102-6500. Both of those line items until we can get further clarity.
I told you, one is the Christmas, one is the turkeys. Walter is the turkey.
Walter is the turkey.
Yeah.
Right.
turkey we gave to the citizens.
You sure?
Yes, oh, yes, yes. I just, it's Waltz. We got the big Waltz.
Okay, so the only one that's going to be on hold is the service-scape.
And I'll just tell you where those decorations are. I know it's a 3-year contract.
All right.
I thought it was some streets too, but, yeah.
Chair recommends to accept the bills list with those corrections made. All in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Williams, so this contract was prior to this administration?
Pardon me, I'm sorry, which,
This contract was prior to this administration?
for what now?
They say it's a 3-year contract.
Yeah, oh, no, it just started. This is the first year.
Okay, so now we got the same problem. Is it $10,012 a year?
No, I said it's a 3-year contract.
I get it. So, but this is the total cost for the 3 years?
Right, exactly.
Oh, so this is not 10,000 a year?
Oh, no. This is more like, it's more like
About 3,500,
$3,000.
about 3,500 a year.
And that'd be, I admit, Alderman, that would be very grand if it was $10,000.
It would, I mean, not that I was upset, I was just about to say where the light's at, okay. And I was gonna also say this is over 10 grand and council haven't seen the contract, but if you're telling me that this is,
It's a 3-year contract, yes.
but it's a 3-year contract, I get that,
Yeah.
but it's still over 10 grand,
Oh, concur.
and we haven't seen this contract. Yeah, so if you can do that for me, yes.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda, I think it was a discussion for the account regarding TOD, TIF for the TOD.
Yes, did I give this to you when I walked in?
I don't know, you gave
The
me,
resolution.
Is this in relationship to the TOD?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we don't have it.
The part of the SEC report required us to hire some auditors to come in and make recommendations. I think some of it's overkill, but one of the things we're required to do now, why
You
normally.
just got one copy? We don't have to share it? I'm like, we gotta share it.
I don't mind sharing.
I'm sorry. Oh, she gave you a copy. Yeah, under current ordinance, I believe I'm authorized over the bank accounts as the controller, or whoever the controller might be is authorized over bank accounts. Of course, the only people who sign on those checks, by the way, are the clerk, the mayor, and the treasurer. Right, and the city administrator, right. But the
On what
new-
checks?
Pardon me?
What,
Any checks.
and what name who did you say?
The mayor,
Clerk, the mayor.
the clerk, the treasurer, and the city administrator.
That's not the
You
way we
got the
passed it.
stipulations on it that the
Right.
city administrator and the mayor couldn't be two signatures unless, they couldn't be the two signatures unless it was deemed to be an emergency.
There you go. Okay.
And
I just-
they must pretty much have held to that, basically. The clerk basically signs all the checks. On occasion, we'll have to interrupt the treasurer to come and make a special trip here to sign checks and things like that.
Okay.
That's been the general rule. What ICL, the auditors that we were required to retain, 4 years ago? Because of SEC, 3 or 4 years ago for the SEC. I do it 5, God, man, people coming, they never leave. What we were required to do they were to come and make recommendations for us. They've actually making recommendations to weaken certain ordinances in the city, not to give the controller just ridiculous authority, which included the ability to do bonds. They gave the authority, even though whenever we've done bonds, they've always required city council approval. The ordinance doesn't say that. So one of the things that he's recommending now is that any new bank accounts require a resolution to be passed by the city council to do so. So we have to open this bank account because as the TIF begins receiving real estate taxes, we want them to go into their own individual account. As
Correct.
all the TIF accounts do now. So in the past, normally we would have had the treasurer, the clerk, the mayor, and the city administrator open the account. It would require all their signatures. Now they're saying that there's a resolution required from the city council to open bank account.
So, Mr. Lewis, when the city council voted on this particular TOD TIF a few months ago, was that just an oversight that it wasn't placed into his own account at that particular time?
Because it'll take a year to start receiving money, so technically, it really won't start really receiving its own tax funds until the second tax bill of 2021. Remember that once you form the TIF, it's always a year in arrears. So there was no money being received, so in a sense it was when that money starts coming in, it is segregated. And in this case, we'll advance money to the TIF because it has certain expenditures now. So technically, that just all needs to be set up.
So, all right, you got anything else?
Yeah, I do. I'm just curious, who chose the bank? And why are we not using banks within our own city?
We used to bank with Fifth Third because of some politics and stuff. We ended up moving the accounts to Amalgamated. But believe me, we tried to use banks in the community. They just weren't too anxious to do business with us.
They was just too anxious to do business?
They were not too anxious.
They were not too anxious to do business with us. You know, that's a shame.
Well, I would tell you this, Alderman, strictly from a personal perspective. If people believe everything that's in the newspaper about Harvey, and once the story's told, and once people say it, it would be like if someone puts out the word, the Alderman likes young women.
Okay.
Once that story gets out there, you can't get it back. You can't grab it back in.
What I know is nobody really cares about the truth when a lie is more entertaining.
That's right, exactly. And that's what happens. And that's one of the reasons I tell people to be cognizant of the stuff you put on Facebook. Because what happens is, all this was to damage the previous administration.
Right.
Well, it don't change. They don't care that it's new faces. All they know is Harvey. And so that's what happened. You know, I've had to justify it myself, you know, and the truth is never printed in the paper, you know. It's the Let's Kiss and Make Up tractor. Did you buy stuff from K Jewelers and stuff like that? You can show them the paperwork, it doesn't matter. I met with the Tribune editorial board to go over the Let's Kiss and Make Up and those alleged misappropriations of funds, and the city of Chicago ran in the court and got a receiver placed as a result of that. And I sat down with this, gave that documentation to the city of Chicago. I gave the documentation to the Tribune editorial board because the prior press agent said, Lewis, this is straightened out once and for all. I've seen that story twice since I sat down with him and provided him all the documentation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just say that, you know, so that's what happens is people say, oh, it's a lot going on over there. Really? I said, well, I got 5 clean, since you started saying that, I got 5 clean audit opinions. You know?
All
I
right,
certainly wouldn't be a party to it.
the chair's gonna make a recommendation to the council that we approve the TOD TIF account at Amalgamated Bank. So is that something, that's not on the agenda for today?
I think that was an oversight, Michelle, and I miscommunicated, because I've been in and out of office sporadically the last 2 weeks, so I just forgot.
But it will be in the future, basically.
Yeah, and that's right, that goes on the next one. It's
I'm in
fine.
favor.
Yeah,
I'm in favor, so,
it goes on the
so,
next meeting.
Michelle, don't drop the ball no more.
No, but I dropped it. You know, anything that goes wrong is my fault. Just remember that. It's the alderman, it's the mayor. How would you pay me for it? Take the blame.
next on the agenda?
Next on the agenda, we have, Did you need to say something? Oh, I'm sorry. Here it is. We have a discussion of Alderman's ward expense account process.
Okay. Mr. Lewis, I've had the opportunity along with other aldermen, and we seem to have some uncertainty on what the procedure is as far as the alderman's ward expense being allocated in a timely manner. Now, this didn't occur during the first year and a half of this administration. The alderman checks, they would come quarterly, every 3 months, and the alderman would turn in invoices, and that seemed to be sufficient. As of right now, there's several aldermen that haven't received money, and I know one for a fact that has requested his automatic reimbursement. It's not anything that the city is giving. This is money that the aldermen have spent and are asking for reimbursement to go back into their personal account or automatic accounts. One alderman that sits on this council hasn't received one since March of this year. And March is the 3rd month in this year, and we're down into the 12th month. That was 9 months ago. And I know other aldermen that have submitted alderman requests, and they were told that they had to have be reviewed by this accounting firm, Baker Tilly. Well, nobody's from Baker Tilly has reached out to any of the aldermen, giving them a written explanation on what the new procedure is. Nobody from the city seems to know in regards to how the aldermen are supposed to require getting their reimbursement. Now, there's a new story that came out that Baker Tilly's not even in the equation. The aldermen are required to have paid in full receipts in order to get reimbursed. I, for one, am certain that I've submitted invoices which they didn't seem sufficient, and I went back and submitted paid in full receipts, and I have still not been reimbursed. I would love for you to shed some clarity on what's the procedure, can we have it in writing, and what does it take for the aldermen to get what's so duly, justly, that supposedly that they've earned and they're supposed to be receiving. Can you expound on that, sir?
One is the issue came up just in terms of the documentation that was being provided. automatic reimbursements. The one expenditure that goes back to March, we don't have to name names, was the issue of whether we were reimbursing the alderman or whether or not we were paying for those expenditures in advance. And the problem with that became is that we, for instance, if you send a bill and you're paying Michelle, and maybe you're paying Alderman Keys and stuff, what happens with the automatic reimbursement is that I write the check totally to you, okay? And then it's more or less on the honor system that you would pay Michelle and Alderman Key. In one instance, there was about $3,000 worth of rent that was being paid to a third party. Well, I didn't write the check to that third party. I write the check to the alderman in this case. And that became the question. What's the documentation for that? Are these other people who are getting these checks get 1099s? And I said, well, that wouldn't be my responsibility to issue a 1099 to someone you pay rent to. It'd be your responsibility if you pay somebody over $600 to issue that 1099. And that became the complete bone of contention. And I will tell you this, there was also an invoice submitted, and this is what kind of get, when people start trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, was one alderman submitted something that was for reimbursement for a blood pressure machine. Now, I understand how you could spend money for a blood pressure machine if your residents are elderly and stuff, and they need to have their blood pressure checked, and as part of your serving your community, you would buy it. But you see how things like that begin to come in question. Certainly other payments that are made to vendors that are a large amount. The issue became, what is our control for making sure that if you pay the Gap man $10,000, if you say you paid them $10,000, what's our proof here?
Well, first of all, your explanation is part A and part B. Okay, if the city, if you write, for example, you use an example, if I write a check to Michelle and Alderman Keys, okay, then they're responsible for, if it's over $600, they're responsible for doing a 1099. That wasn't my question. My question.
No, they would. No, technically, if I write the check to you, what assurances are if she was getting $1,200 and he was getting $1,200? Who would issue the 1099s? I said, well, my responsibility.
Yes, sir, but that's
it. Issue those. I gave you the money.
Yes, sir, but that's if you initially received the funding from out of your automatic expense.
Right.
This money that I'm speaking in question did not come out of the automatic expense. This came out of my expense.
But now I'm reimbursed.
And now I want my reimbursement for my expenditures.
And the issue becomes, will you issue those people 1099s? That's one issue. The other issue is the documentation that proves that a payment was made. That's the real issue.
And that's where the paid in full receipt comes in at.
Again.
Am I correct?
I would agree that should suffice in most cases.
Now, were you submitted paid in full receipts? I can only speak in terms of Alderman Rogers.
What I do is, that when I get an expense reimbursement report from you, and I put it in the system, well, when it's put in the system by the accounts payable person, what they do is they just take your spreadsheet, because the spreadsheets are good, which list out all the individual bills, and we scan all those bills into the system, okay? And that is more, and generally sufficient for me. It was only when it became a question in terms of internal control is, what are our controls to ensure that the people you're submitting expenses for are actually being paid?
And what are they? How did you answer the question?
Pardon me?
How did you answer the question? What are your controls?
In some instances, like I said, with the rent, with one alderman, they weren't paid. They were waiting on he was waiting to be reimbursed to pay them. I mean, more or less, he was submitting the bill as a bill to be paid.
So okay, I'm still confused. What is the control mechanism then?
in an instance where we're paying in advance like that, I'm really not sure. Because I obviously would not expect the alderman to go in his pocket and pay. If he's paying somebody $500 a month for rent, and he wants to pay him for a year, I wouldn't expect him to go in his pocket and pay him $6,000.
Why wouldn't you expect that?
Because maybe they ain't got it.
He ain't got it yet. He don't have it.
No, he got it.
But,
He got it.
so and to answer, you basically said you don't have one for that type of situation. What is the control mechanism if one can produce a paid in full receipt and not an actual invoice for payment?
Well, what started the whole discussion is certain aldermen were submitting canceled checks for things they had paid or credit card receipts to document, I'm asking you to reimburse me for things that I paid for. In other instances, it's just paid receipt, which I guess some viewed as not documentation just because it's stamped paid. How do we know it's paid?
But Mr. Lewis,
And I'm not sure how I'll get over that.
at the beginning of this administration, those are exactly the way that we were told that was required for the alderman for reimbursement, and didn't seem to be a problem. Now,
And aldermen,
now the rules,
that was adequate for me.
the rules have changed in the mid-game. We down in the fourth quarter, now you want to make a five play instead of 4 plays. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Now, the fact that I can speak on behalf of the Fourth Ward Alderman, and because there was an invoice in September's accounts payable bills list, and I've always been kind of in the dark where they say, well, we've never had to put alderman expense accounts on the bills list. That was just automatically. It was automatically given that we were going to get paid. But these 2 aldermen had their automatic expense put on September's bills list, and they were voted on by the city council.
Alderman,
And hold, they were voted on by the city council. I never saw the check, never have received the check, and that was September. And here we are in December. Now, on this November 22nd bills list, we just voted for $1,750 for the 3rd Ward Alderman. Now, explain, Mr. Lewis, if the alderman's expense account does not require to be put on the bills list, why is it constantly be putting on the bills list? Last month, there was one for the 1st Ward Alderman. Don't know if it was paid or not, but there seems to be 2 standards. Well, you ain't playing right on the playground, so...
well, let me tell you my thing on it, on the bill list. What we do with the bill list is all the bills that are put into the system during the board meetings. That's how come you always see me with dates. Even though the dates, like this month, you saw 19 bills on there for the cleaning services.
Outside services, yeah.
For outside services. So what happens is, so it prints all the bills out, but as a rule, and even my reimbursement, it's a little different because that is for stuff that really should have been approved, even though it's a small amount for that. But my general rule is employee reimbursements and automatic reimbursements really don't require to be put on the bill list because if an employee has been, he should be given authority. If I say, Michelle, as a city employee, pick up a box of paper on your way to the office this morning because we got a paper. I owe her that money. She's been authorized to do it. So therefore, that really shouldn't be on the bill list. The only reason they appear on the bill list is really not that I'm really seeking approval of those bills. So I never seek approval to reimburse you your money.
Okay,
but you've already been pre-authorized by ordinance to spend that money.
All right, Mr. Lewis. Now, if that holds true, then would you and Michelle be considered employees of the city or contractors, or could you all produce since I don't see anybody else here from the administration, could you all be required to give the alderman and the treasurer and the clerk and the mayor or whoever gets a reimbursement expenditure where there needs to be something tangible in writing that we can say, hey, we follow X, Y, Z, this is what I'm expecting. I'm not in the business of begging.
Right.
I will not do it.
And-
I submitted my documentation accordingly, thoroughly. It was professionally done, and I have still not received, and I'm gonna tell you something. If you're standing on your left leg and it's wrong, you're standing on your right leg and it's wrong, you need to go sit down and be wrong over in that corner, because you're wrong completely. Not saying you, not saying you, I'm just saying that this is totally wrong. And I don't care how you look at it, and I really don't care what nobody think about me or what they think about what I'm saying. This has to be said, and it has to be brought out, because it's wrong. And I need something in writing that the alderman can say, hey, this is what we followed the procedures. And I was wondering, can you produce that?
We initially,
Whenever you get a chance.
we initially laid out guidelines for the automatic reimbursement.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they're not the same now.
I will concur, so in that case, we need to provide additional instructions on how it should be done. But Alderman, I'm not your enemy on this stuff. I would agree.
Mr. Lewis, and I'm not claiming, I know you're just doing your job, and I understand that.
If I may.
Please, go ahead, Chair. Go, Chair.
Look, I mean, just to round this out so that we don't keep going around in circles, we're very clear that there was a process, there were procedures that were being followed.
Yeah.
Previous to this point in time, as you just said, somewhere along the lines, that changed. I have a few questions. Who changed them? Clearly, somebody's saying no to these reimbursements at this point. I want to know who they are directly. Who is the person that is saying no? Because if it's not you, then we're talking to the wrong person. I need to talk to the person that's saying no so that we can get an understanding as to why they're being rejected, and we can properly fix whatever that issue is.
And I will concur. I will concur that we will send out something that lays out exactly what's required to be reimbursed. Because everyone should be reimbursed. There's no question about it.
Okay,
No question about it.
that's it for me. What do we got? Are we moving forward?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Second Ward Alderman Talbot to the meeting. The next thing on the agenda is a discussion of the tax levy, an order to tax levy the City of Harvey, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning May 1, 2021, and ending April 20th, 2022. I'm right here at, be it ordained through the mayor and the city council of the City Council of Harvey, Illinois, Article 1. This is where we're at, Mr. Williams.
Provided you guys.
You gave us some
Actually, I gave you two things. One is the actual appropriations ordinance for 2021, but I also gave you a second worksheet that shows the levy for 2021. And alongside that, I put the levy for 2021. Alongside the 2021 levy, I put the levy for 2020. To show you now, what happens is the debt service levy is not really levied by us. I mean, it's levied, that was set, the debt service levies, what we have to levy for debt service was set by the debt ordinances when the 202 and the 207 bonds were issued in order to be able to pay the people off. So I exclude that. So if you add, so what I was showing in my worksheet was, if you look at the total levy for 2021 is $19 million. Okay, if you take off the $4,073,000, which is the approximate levy for debt service, it shows the levy is $1,589,000. And if you look at my last column for levy 2021, that levy is the same exact amount. What happens is we levied the exact same amount for police and fire protection, but what happened, the fire pension levy went down, about $60,000. The police pension levy went up by about $70,000. And conversely was adjusted, the net together is that additional money was put into the general fund levy for corporate services. So that is to say that the actual levy did not increase at all.
So what about the police protection and the fire protection?
They are flat. They are flat.
Which year, you talking about 21, right?
Yes.
In 21, they're
21.
flat. They're the same as they were in 20.
So the increase from 20, from $18,720 is what we levied. Now this year in 21 is $19,262,800.
And that difference is strictly, that increase is strictly in debt service. Debt service last year, we levied $3,580,000. And this year, the ordinance calls for us to levy $4,073,000.
So the only increase is from
Debt service,
debt services.
because we don't control that.
Chairman,
Yes, Co-Chair, go ahead.
how do you get the number for debt services?
I look at the bond ordinances, and they tell me how much has to be levied for this year. There's a debt schedule that says this is what the interest and principal is for that fiscal year. Here's what for each year. And that's set initially by the bonds when they were issued in 2007 and 2002.
Was that provided to the council?
The debt service levy,
Yeah.
it's every year it's in the audit report about the last page. So it's public disclosure. I'm sorry, if you look at the last, really about, I think maybe the last 4 or 5 pages of the audit, you'll see as time goes on, we're required to, because initially the bonds all start out as interest only, in most cases. What happens is the bonds get older, you have to pay more interest and principal. We're in the process of trying to renegotiate those bonds because we are in default of them right now to ease the burden on the taxpayers.
And that would be the 2020 audit, right?
Right.
So if we in the.
Ho. Chair recognizes member from the committee, Second Ward Alderman Talbot.
I forgot.
You only got a few words out, because I was going to read your
I
mind.
said I forgot.
Did she?
Sorry.
Go
I
ahead,
forgot what I
brother.
was gonna say.
Go ahead.
I can't remember what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's, if you look in the, and I'm sorry, but if you look in the audit report, you'll see it. But
I'm
what
trying
happens
to
is
bring it
you
back
front-load the
up. I
bond.
see the 2019, I don't see the 2020.
The 2020, we should just, we emailed that out to you too. That should have been
Wanna
on
see
you
it?
about a month and a half ago.
2020 audit.
oh.
Well, I'm sorry, you can look in 2019, look at your last 2 pages. It's the only thing that changes, we updated for years. You were asked if we were in default.
Chair recognizes the second.
Yeah, so if we're in default, then where is the payments going that we levying for?
Once we levy for those amounts, the county sends those to, in this case, to the agency that, it gets sent to the bank. It gets sent to, in this case, U.S. Bank. Because what's happened is, those bonds, when they were issued, so we had about 50% tax collection. The bonds assumed they were going to be at about 90% collection. So we only collect 40% of the 50% of the money is only money to pay 50% of the
So
bonds.
we really need to figure out how to come up with the rest of the money.
Well, that's where we're trying to renegotiate the payment stream. Because what happened is, you guys say, I'll tell you how bad this was. When those bonds were issued in 2007, which would have been the latest bond issues, those bonds our tax collection rate was pretty close to 80%.
Mr. Lewis,
Now it's 50.
you know, every year, you know, and I'm becoming more familiarized with what's going on. And the citizens of Harvey, like you said, we're only at a place where we're about 50%. We cannot tax our way out of debt. The citizens do not deserve that, and we cannot do it. We're going to have to bring industry in, and that's the only way that we're going to climb the city of Harvey out of this hole. We cannot depend on the citizens of Harvey to try to pull this city out of debt. It just won't happen. And every year, that seems to be what's occurring. You know, we keep going, you know, and increasing, even though we're still levying at 4.99%, but the CPI or the debt services, it always lingers up to an additional $1 million. Now, everybody's not paying 100% for that additional $1 million. And I recall in 2019, it was 17 million, and then in 2020, it was 18.7 million, and now this year's 19 million. Now, it may not be significant if you divide it amongst the property owners here in City Harvey. It may average out to about $50 annually, which is not a significant amount of money. But if you're a single parent, or even if you're a two-parent household that's struggling in the midst of a pandemic and COVID-19, a jar of peanut butter and jelly could make the difference on whether or not your family goes to bed hungry or not. $50 a month, $50 a year comes out to a little bit about $2 and something a week. It's not a whole lot of money. I wouldn't even think about it and blink an eye. But I'm not here to think about me. I'm here to think about the residents of this city. And this is a poverty-stricken community. And I just felt the need to just let somebody know in authority that we cannot tax our way out of this hole.
Alderman, I made a statement probably 5 years ago at a council meeting that we've cut almost everything we can cut in this city, and the only way we can get out of this is to grow our way out. And that's why I know the mayor's proposing some on the zero cash buyout from the county. So some of these large pieces of industrial property where the people are not paying those taxes, that we take those properties, we bid those taxes, and we just say we're not going to collect those taxes. And so we get it, and we're able to sell those properties off to developers. But I will tell you this, I've been here, I think this is my 7th or 8th tax levy that I prepared. I'm not raised to the dime, because you know what happened? Over the prior 10 years, the levy doubled. And guess what the actual cash did? Stayed flat. So I'm very sensitive to that. Unfortunately, I can't go back and decide, because you can't decide it even, to reduce the levy that we're required to provide for debt service. But for the last 2 years, this mayor's had a lot of resources working toward restructuring this debt, so to reduce the burden on the taxpayers of Harvey.
Yeah, because actually it is a burden, and you know, I'm not willing to increase the taxes here in the citizens, for the citizens here in Harvey, not another dime.
And unfortunately,
we just don't. And you made it plain. You've cut everything you can cut. Okay, and for that reason alone, we don't have the services, the streets and sanitation. They do the best they can do with what we have, but we still got trash and debris everywhere. Our police department, we don't have many fires, but the fire department, you know. So the point I'm making is that this is not Tinley Park or Orland Park or Rosemont, okay, where they're actually getting tax reimbursements to the residents. Okay, our citizens are suffering, and as an alderman, I can only express the sentiments of the citizens as they reflect them to me. That was the only person, that's the only reason that I'm here, because to be their voice. And their voice is saying they're tired of these taxes.
I will give you, and I'm not playing games on my phone. I actually called up my calculator to compute something for you, because
Okay.
I understand the importance of this. Just to tell you what we're up against, so that people understand.
And while you're calculating, Mr. Lewis,
35% of our total budget, when you take out the debt service, you take out the debt service and just take the police pension at $1.9 million and the fire pension at 3.4, that works out to $5.3 million, just those two numbers. That makes up 35% of the levy, just going for the pensions for those. Now, that's because the pensions are far too generous. I'm sorry, I would say that to the people who get them, but the pensions that allow people to collect 75% of their highest pay is unsustainable. It was somewhat sustainable when people all were dead by 75, but you know how many 75-year-olds you got out here walking around now
Yeah.
that ain't going nowhere for another 20. And needless to say, we have widows in the pension fund now who are in their 90s. Pension fund was never designed to take that into account.
we're paying for 2 police departments,
No, no.
and we're paying for 2 fire
Well,
departments.
just think about it. I'm levying $5.3 million for the fire pension funds, but I'm only levying 2.7 of taxes for the actual fire and the police department.
The ones that's actually coming to work every
They
day.
actually come to work every day. That's not just people come to work, that's all the other expenses associated with it. So it's a pretty ugly situation when it comes to that. But that's why this nation has to come to grips with it. I'm sorry they have to come to grips with the pension stuff as I become the age of a pensioner, but it's the reality of it.
Well, you know, Mr. Lewis, and that's just not just Harvey.
Oh, no,
This
it's not.
is
I
statewide.
said the nation has to come to grips
Yeah,
with it.
I mean, yeah, the pension situation, and I'm not one to complain about it because I collect a pension, actually 2 pensions. So, you know, and I look forward to my annual increase.
Yeah.
You know, but still, as a resident, but as an alderman, my concerns are for,
No, we expect Alderman Randall and the other young aldermen and.
these young men here, they got a long time.
Yeah, we expect them to
Yeah,
keep
I don't have that
working.
much time tonight, though.
Yeah, so no, Mr. Williams, so you saying, we doing all we can to make our pension, I mean, not our pension, but our debt obligation, and you told me you guys are restructuring the debt. So could you explain, so I do see there's an increase in funds going towards police protection, a few dollars extra going to the fire protection.
Actually, nothing going to it. The levies are exactly the same.
No, not from the actual levy, but I'm talking about in our
Oh,
overall
from the
budget.
actual budget,
In our
yeah. the
overall
pol-
budget, there's more money going to
Yeah,
police, more money
and the
going to fire.
police budget is up substantially in previous years.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm just saying, but that was contingent on some federal funding, so we were pretty sure we were gonna get that federal funding, so we actually will come in under budget, and so we didn't get the federal funding, so we
Yeah, no,
won't
that's
be
fine.
spending.
Then my question is, why is appropriations for $2 million for the corporate fund? And is it possible if we're trying to make cuts or keep stuff stable, why didn't we allow $2 extra million towards the debt? Yeah.
The actual money that's being increased in the corporate fund for that is actually grant funds. Remember, we still have to appropriate funds. So in that budget, in our actual revenue side of the budget, we're projecting $2 million
No, we
more in
talking-
revenue.
So I'm talking about, so there's additional $2 million in revenue, but on appropriation it's $2 million.
No, I'm saying that's why the expenses went up $2 million, because we expected $2 million more
That's based
in
on
revenue.
projections of grants.
Well, we actually have received part of those grants already. You know, again, when we're doing that budget in August, I can predict pretty good by August what's gonna come in, if there's gonna be a grant. At that point, we'd actually collected those grant funds.
Gotcha.
Okay,
But a fair amount of that too, Alderman, when you look at that general fund stuff, is stuff that really, it didn't all, that money didn't get dropped in the salaries
Tell me
and
some of the
stuff like
things you
that.
cut over the last year and a half.
Oh, the we basically, what happens with the budget in terms of expenses, all those labor contracts that we had to do, but we've cut quite a few expenses. We cut the refuge expenditures down.
Okay.
We cut professional fees actually down. So we've cut the phone bills down, and we restructured all the phone for that amount. We thought we were gonna get a little more savings out of the street lighting project, but we put in all the new heads for the LED lighting.
We all in?
We put in, most of them in, but what we found out is the infrastructure in terms of, the power to power those lights, in some cases, has been stripped. You know, so that's part of what we're hoping to be able to use some of these COVID funds for, to be able to get all these street lights lit up, because believe me, the street lights are important, because you know, it's like the roaches in your kitchen. They come on, when the lights come on, they scatter.
Are you referring to the Recovery Rescue Fund?
much
The
did we get?
3.3 million, wasn't it?
Well, we got half that amount.
Two intervals of $1.6 million,
Right,
and we are still awaiting the second interval of it?
right.
Are y'all gonna present a plan for spending on that?
Well, understand, most of it can be used to cover our shortfalls and salaries and stuff.
No, I was saying, y'all wanna see how we spend it. You can provide that?
That's in the budget. Yeah, we have to, not only do we have to provide it to you, now, let me be clear, Alderman, not only do we have to provide it to you, as Michelle's job, we gotta justify it to the feds. It's not very cut and dry, believe me. You will not, this is not Shangri-La money that we
We're
can
gonna hold your
just-
feet to the fire. We
Oh,
want
no,
to see,
the
we
feds
want to
are
see
holding
it.
our feet to the fire. We also required to have an A-133 federal funds audit, which is an additional component to the audit, where we have to document, this is not Shangri-La where we can decide, let's get new office furniture for everybody. No.
It's not just extra revenue, we have to actually say specifically how we're going to spend it.
So tell me, that initial first check that came in for 1.6, has it all been
Hell no, it's sitting in the account, Alderman.
sitting
Because we can't touch it until what we're gonna spend it on meets the criteria.
And it's very specific.
What did you just say y'all made salary shortfalls with?
Pardon me? I said we have the ability to use some of it for salary shortfall. Because we had a lot of overtime, understand, revenue went down in the COVID year, so we get to make up some of that shortfall.
Oh, okay.
But no, so Alderman, I assure you, it has to
It's
be,
I
about
just wanna
30
see what the
pages.
spending look like.
yeah.
30 pages, things you gotta make sure you've done.
Good luck.
Well, that being said,
So Alderman, I really wish, and I haven't made this a secret to Mayor Clark no more than I did to Mayor Kellogg. There's nothing more I would like to do than to cut our levy. Now, unfortunately, what's happening,
What's holding you up?
just like, we gotta have basic services, you know, we gotta have police protection, we gotta have fire protection. We have to have just those basic services that we need. And to be honest with you, one of the areas that we have increased money on over the last 5 years is we've had to increase money just holding the infrastructure of this city. We spend a lot more money on the street department. At one point, Sepik was operating with 4 full-time employees. That was it.
We got a lot of them now, right?
No, it's still only 12.
So double. Triple.
Triple, yeah. It's still
Well-
only 12. And you guys know all the work that has to be done, 'cause like I said, all we have to do is look at, I got a bill in there to pay Republic right now for dumping that just over the last 4 months is over $100,000. That's in addition to the regular refuge bill. And that's-
now, that recovery money can be used for that, to pay the dumping.
Are you sure? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you
No, it
can.
cannot be. No, well, believe me, because
I
we
trust
have
what
to go
Michelle
through-
said. She said no.
Believe me, we have to go to this A-133 audit, so Michelle has
I
spent,
can give you the sheet.
yeah, or what it can be spent on.
It's definitely not.
Police protection is one, right?
If we can calculate the fact that our loss is, if you compare 2020 law revenue to 2019 revenue, and if there's special revenues, they want us to include special revenues, they don't want us to include, so it's very confusing.
And then the money can't be used for infrastructure. I was told.
It can't, well, actually, it can be used for infrastructure as long as there was specific plans before March of this year. Specific plans. So I need emails, I need specific documentation to show what we were planning to do with that money if there was extra money. Now, that, yes.
Now, I will tell you what's happening with the last, I forgot, no one that got BBB, but the infrastructure bill that actually passed Congress, we're still waiting on the rounds for them to disperse that. And we'll be able to use that for the real infrastructure, hopefully to do some of these water lines over, do some of these sewer lines over. And that's why, to be honest with you, we don't want to spend this other money on it, because the infrastructure money is coming for that.
Well, all that being said, I think we've discussed the tax levy enough. The chair is going to make a recommendation to pass this tax levy to the regular city council meeting tonight for ratification. Other committee members, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? MT? All opposed, all in favor?
I'm abstaining.
You abstaining? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but one of the things I would do, that we talked about, as a matter of fact, I just had a very brief discussion with the mayor, because I wasn't happy with what the police pension levy had actually gone up over last year, and I thought it should have gone down. One of the things I told him, I said, we probably haven't done a good job of letting our citizens know, and that is, if their tax bills have gone up, we want to lay out 5 years of tax bills that the citizen of Harvey gets and show how the levy for the city of Harvey has not gone up. Now, we don't control the other 12 taxing districts, so those may have gone up, but understand, the line for Harvey city government has actually been.
I mean, this is what we went through last year, and I did the exact same thing. The problem comes in at is that it looks like, and this is why I said, you know, some type of meeting on the issue needs to go out, maybe a letter and a water bill, really explaining the breakdown of this, because when a resident picks up their tax bill, they see 9.9%.
Exactly.
Right? And that they believe that their local elected officials are
Raising taxes.
are raising taxes because it used to be 4.9.
Yeah.
Well, they don't understand that here we kept it at 4.99.
That's right.
But that has nothing. So how do you get the other percentage points? How do you get those other points on the percentage?
What is that, Mr. Williams?
It's debt services.
Oh, okay.
It's police and fire pension.
Well,
So that's separate from what we just passed.
But actually, what I've done in this, and actually the first year we got hit with this is, what I did was reduce the general corporate tax levy
That's what I thought about doing.
by the amount that I had to increase those pensions.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I just did this year. I had to recruit, fire went down, police went up, the net went back to the general fund. But literally, we were levying, between police protection and the corporate, we were levying far more than we're levying now. So I think I took almost $2 million off of that levy. So it's that much less we have to work on. Now, that's no excuse for the fact that we were levying for taxes. You know, I'll be honest with you, the pension case goes back to 1978. Was when the police and fire pension fund sued the city for not funding the pensions. If we were, I think I mentioned this before, if we had been funding the police pension fund properly, for every year, the total levy from together, what they call the normal cost in the pension, would be only $1 million. So,
But I think the explanation is imperative. Maybe there's something that you could type up that we can get out to residents that adequately can explain this.
The mayor agreed to, he'd go in and print out 5 years of his tax bill so we can show people exactly what has happened.
I think that's the important part, because as many times as we dealt with it.
Everybody should know it, because like I said, I've been super sensitive to the fact that, guys, I looked at what had happened, and I had a conversation with Mayor. I said, collections going for, literally, I worked over in the Park District straightening out this stuff for audit for maybe 4 years before I came to the Harvey. And I know when I went over that collection rate was almost 80%. So when I saw it drop to, it eventually gets up to about 54%, because some people, by the time they pay taxes, people pay them basically sometime 3 years late. It finally gets up to 54%. That's a long way from 70, because if you just think about, if I collect 25% more in taxes on a levy, that's $4 million.
Mr. Lewis, one thing, there's been a lot of things discussed here tonight. We kind of jumped all over the place.
Right.
I want you to take a few minutes before we adjourn the meeting to really just talk to the residents, to let them know why and how this extra $1 million from last year occurred to this year, and that we actually did not actually increase the taxes. Because the residents, just like my colleague said, they're under the impression that their elected officials raise taxes. And I knew that held true last year. But as regard to the debt services...
No, it did not raise, it was not true last year. We still levy at 4.99.
Right, but we didn't raise taxes, but it still went up $1 million from the year previous to that.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying it was true that we raised taxes.
No, we didn't raise taxes.
okay. Okay.
I can assure you, like I said, there was a bump in taxes. I think 1 year I may have had to add 200,000 on for the pensions, because we just couldn't move any further on what we could take out the general fund. Harvey has held the line on the corporate taxes, and I'm saying other than debt service, for the past 7 years. Now, what happens is you may not see that in your tax bill, because there are 12 to 15 other taxing districts that the citizens of Harvey have to pay taxes on. It doesn't stop the library board or the school board or the 205 or 153 or 152 and a half or 152 from raising their taxes, because that impacts your tax bill, or from Cook County raising your taxes.
But more importantly, we can't raise taxes.
No, we can't.
We are at the maximum, right?
Without a referendum.
Right, without a referendum. So in that case,
we could raise taxes, I think it's 2.3% without referendum. You can automatically do that.
I thought you couldn't go over 5%.
What, pardon me?
I thought you couldn't go over 5%.
Well, I'm just saying, but we could go up on the tax.
I know, but not without a referendum.
Not without, but we don't go up to 5%.
Right, but my point of saying all that is that the residents would know if there was another increase coming, because it would be by referendum.
Right.
So that alone can dispel all of this. We're raising taxes in Harvey.
We had a conversation tonight, just briefly, earlier today, I should say, just about all the big commercial spaces on Dixie Highway and Halsted that are not paying taxes and doing the zero cash bid, especially with the casino. No fantasy about the casino, but people drive up and down Dixie, those are the main thoroughfares in the city, about those people that don't pay taxes. Zero cash bid them, and let's put them out to developers or other people to buy them.
I agree.
But you can't sit in Harvey on those two main drives and not pay real estate taxes.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree.
Because needless to say, just think about with these real estate taxes, I'm doing the 50% collection. You understand, we got $2 million more in taxes. $2 million more in taxes raises that by 10%. So I go from 50% collection to 60% collection with just $2 million.
So, Mr. Williams, I got a question.
Sure.
I'm not understanding. So in 2020, we levied $18.7 million, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
In 2022, or 2021, I should say, we levied $19.2 million.
Right.
How did we get the increase without increasing the taxes?
That's because, again, that's the debt service. I don't control that. I
So,
don't have
but
to.
even with the debt service, there is going to be a tax, it looks like a tax
It's a
increase.
very small tax increase.
Okay.
It's very
I'm
small.
about to say, that couldn't be.
It's very small, because we're holding.
So there's a small
I can't
increase.
control that one. But again, I hope we're very close to a settlement with the bondholders on those bonds, to not only get them out of default, but we'll streamline that payment back down to a more reasonable payment.
So then we can lower the debt service. and do it.
Right, we'll then lower the debt service levy.
Gotcha.
So we've
Because
been
they have to be
We've
increased
been
somewhere.
working, we've been working very diligently on that.
I just want to make sure, like, because I agree.
Whoa. Chair from the second was still making a statement.
He was done.
He wasn't done.
No, it wasn't.
See?
Okay, we recognize the chair from, co-chair from the fifth.
I agree with Alderman Tolbert. I think it's about the way it's said, right? Because the increase is not our doing, is what I'm saying, right? And I just don't want it to go out as if, yeah, we got to increase, but this is not the local officials saying, hey, let's increase taxes. And that's kind of how people like to put that out there, but that's not what's happening here. And there's no option to sit here. I mean, there's other options, lower it from 4.9% to 4%.
Well,
but now you're gonna.
Alderman Key happened to be a sitting alderman. When we talk about the numbers I really don't control, not only do I not control debt service, the city's under court order to levy
Right.
for the police pension fund and for the fire pension fund. So when you look at this and you say, I got 2, 4, 6 lines I'm levying for, 3 of them, they tell me. And then I have to work within those parameters so it has the least impact on the residents. So,
So, Mr. Williams,
And that's what my concern is, to have the least impact on the residents.
I still had the floor.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, Mr. Williams, though, in a perfect situation then, if the tax levy is 18.7, then the next year's of 21's is 19.2, there's no way we could have figured out a way to cut $400,000 out of our budget, or $500,000? And
I
then there's
just
been
don't
no
see it.
increase?
I'm already, again, what you're talking about is cutting was already lean, and when I say cutting to the
So
bone,
we running as efficient as possible. What you gonna tell me?
I wish I could tell you that. I mean, but there's a certain amount of built-in inefficiencies to the government, and that is, we could argue about just how much fire protection do we need? You
How
know,
much staff in City Hall?
well, yeah, that no argument there. But I would tell you this though, people require and expect a lot. I'm just saying, people expect it. They really do. It's people. You get the calls from Automatic. I wish everybody could. Y'all too old young to remember. You remember Queen for a Day, the movie? I mean, it's a game show, Queen for a Day. I wish everybody could be mayor for about a month.
I remember the movie All the Queen Horses too.
All right, that being said, is there any,
You got public comment on the agenda?
just a moment, sir. Is there any, public comment that want to come in virtual, Mr. Rush? Is there any public comment that's sitting in this room would like to? The chair recognizes the alderman from the fourth ward.
Thank you, sir. My question is for the comptroller. This year, pro champs, when they hit the meeting, they said that they generated an income of $262,000 this year.
That sounds like in the ballpark.
Okay, what as far as how they being allocated?
You understand what those funds for the basically
Anything we want to, right?
for the planning.
Whoa,
That's
Marshall,
what supports their
control
budget.
answer
I got
this question.
$600,000 worth of salaries down there in the planning department. So those have always just been general funds that used for the operations of that department.
So was it any type of discussion, because it never came to council, it wasn't until the council meeting when he was doing his presentation that we was aware of how much income that the pro champs produced for the city. So I'm saying, how was that money? I don't understand the process of how we're not even in the loop of things, how that money should be processed.
Well, that money comes.
What can it go to?
That money all comes to the general fund, and we appropriate for vacant property in the budget. So we appropriate that revenue. They're just collecting it on our behalf and being more efficient than we were on vacant property registration. So it comes into the city coffers to support general government, but most of it goes, like I said, the planning department still has a $800,000 budget. So that's just part of what allows their budget. That just funds part of their budget.
Okay, I just got two more questions.
Sure.
Okay, the first one, you were discussing the contract that we had with Sapia for the lights, the street lights, 3-year contract?
No, that was for Christmas lights, Christmas
lights.
decorations.
Christmas lights, right? Okay, the next election is in 2023, so everybody that's sitting here probably have to have most of us less than 2 years in office, and in case another administration comes in, why are we giving 3-year contract when it's a possibility that? it will be
Any
another
contract,
administration?
any contract that extends beyond the term of a mayor is voidable.
Yeah, yes,
Is
sir.
what?
Is voidable, yes.
That's true, we did it.
That's any contract is void, except labor contracts, which is, you can't come in and decide you're gonna void a labor contract that we've done. But understand this, even with the labor contracts and stuff, we try to make sure those expire at the end of terms, so that you had opportunity. We didn't re-sign them with Mayor Clark. I said, no. I don't like the labor contract, let the next mayor come in and deal with it.
Okay, does that complete your questioning or comments?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
All right, Chair recognizes the Alderman from the second
So
ward.
you said we spent $800,000 in the planning department, on what? Exactly.
600 salaries.
What is 600 salaries on? How many inspectors do we have? Tell me.
That's what we budget. We always hope to
So we're not
have.
spending 600,000.
Pardon me?
We're not spending 600,000.
Well, we got the lawyers who work on the condemnations and the demolitions and stuff.
Is there
We
anything
got
new in the planning department?
outside, pardon me?
Anything new in the planning department? Because how was the planning department funded prior to?
No,
'cause, for
we
example,
used to collect the money, we just weren't collecting as much, so we
No,
were
prior to
probably.
Pro Champs, how was the planning department funded?
No, I said we were billing people for, I mean, when you were down there, Alderman, we did the abandoned, where we required properties to be registered that were abandoned.
Okay.
So we
just
collected the
more.
fee. They just have a better database to work from with the intent. It's just like the other services. What you get those companies in to do is get your database, so you take it over, you already know who all the players are. So I already know I got this 100 addresses I should be collecting it from. And that's the only reason that you do it that way.
All right. there's
Motion to adjourn.
Wait,
It's just like I give another example, a serious increase.
no need to give another example, we good.
Motion to adjourn.
If there's no further comment, Chair puts a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right.
6:51, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.